So today I thought I would share some of my favorite planetary house placements in the composite chart. And if you're unfamiliar with what the composite chart is, it's basically the chart of the relationship itself when two people come together and their energies are merged together. It's different from synastry where each person's planets are communicating with the other person's. It's different because the composite is more of like a solid singular blending of their energies. It shows basically like what the final outcome is of the two people coming together and what the tangible result is. And the way that you would get a composite is by finding the midpoint between each person's sun, each person's moon, each person's Mercury, and so on. I personally hold more importance upon the Davison chart, and the Davison is actually a type of composite where it's based on a real time, a real date, a real place on Earth. It has a much more practical use where you can almost like see it playing out in real life the way that it's explained in the chart basically. And the composite, I see that one more as conceptual, but you really want to look at both of them and see what the two charts are saying about the same relationship. You just want to look at both to have a more fuller picture of the relationship, along with the synastry as well. I really like seeing the sun in the fourth house in the composite chart. Just shows that you like to nest together, and the basic purpose of the relationship and of the two people coming together and joining forces will be to build a foundation. And it can also point to past lives because the fourth house, among other things, of course, can cover past life, where the midheaven and the 10th house is like your future and what you should be or what you're like reaching towards. And the fourth house is like where you've been in the past. And so I associate the sun in the fourth house in a composite to be a relationship or the person that you're with, as seeing them as someone very familiar to you and someone that you've joined forces with in the past. Perhaps you were like family in another life. I also like the sun in the fourth house because it would be really ideal to be quarantined with the person who you had a sun in the fourth house composite with. Privacy rules over privacy and domesticity. So often you'll find it easy or natural to build a home or like build a family with this person. It's easy to be very like content and quiet together and enjoy like comfortable moments with each other. You're able to build a safe space, build a comfort zone together with each other. You basically feel comfortable together. This is the sun, which is the identity and the ego of the purpose of the relationship, and it's all about comfort and home and like being emotionally close together, like perhaps being alone together, being in your own private safe space together will be what fuels and energizes the partnership. As far as sun placements go, composite suns, I also really like seeing sun in the seventh house. Basically, you guys are here to, in this lifetime, to just basically be a team in its most basic sense. The seventh house is all about teamwork and partnership and the relationship itself. And with the sun here, you're very much going to be focused on the relationship and on working together, on compromising, on reaching a solution together, like where you both are satisfied. It's gonna, a lot of what drives a relationship is the desire to help each other, to please each other, and to accommodate one another. This is basically the ultimate like team placement, the ultimate relationship placement. And you find that you work together a lot easier and a lot more efficiently than you would separately as separate people. You basically see the same side and it's easy to see each other's point of view. The whole purpose of the relationship would be to face the world together. Now, for the moon placement, I really like the moon in the 11th house in the composite. This is like basic friendship, and friendship is actually really, really important in a composite chart. Like, you can do a composite for any type of relationship. Okay, it doesn't have to be romantic, but I think within like the romantic context, you still want to factor in friendship, and because it is still really important to like just genuinely like the person that you're with for who they are. And the 11th house placements in compatibility and synastry and in composite, it's all about accepting each other for who you are, and you're letting your freak flag fly, basically accepting the other person for their unusualness, for their like unique quirks and habits that, you know, other people might not necessarily understand, but you accept them for what it is, and they feel free and they feel relaxed to really truly be themselves and let all of that loose, because they don't feel like they have to hide that they are going to be judged by you. The moon in the 11th house is all about like freedom and independence and allowing the other person to just be themselves, no matter what that is. Now, the moon in the composite chart, where you are able to bond together emotionally and really show that you care for the other person, and with the moon in the 11th house, you show that you're connected through the sense of friendship and through camaraderie, through your goals. The 11th house also shows your goals, what you would eventually like to see in the future together. And the moon here shows that a huge part of what helps the relationship feel emotionally satisfied is through uh, pursuing goals together and having that common goal together, whatever that might be. If you have moon in the 11th house composite along with the sun in the 7th house, that would be like the most perfect situation ever. Because you know, the sun in the 7th is about like teamwork, and then the moon in the 11th is focused on goals. So you could like pursue anything together and have it work, like just be on the same page about where you're headed and what you guys both want ultimately for the relationship. Moon in the 11th house also displays emotional freedom. You don't feel really obligated to each other. The emotions are also like really displayed out on the surface, and it's communicated, it's thought through, and it's discussed openly. I also really like Mercury in the 9th house in the composite chart. It's communication that is based in honesty, and truth, and what you guys really believe in. And with this placement, you're really going to enjoy talking about and discussing like your own personal truths and finding out like what it is you guys both agree on. And that's something that's going to be a topic that you guys will be discussing a lot, is just like where you guys can both agree on. Your conversations will be very deep. They will not be shallow at all. They won't be like just basic small talk. It'll be about, you know, the future and like the deeper things in life and things that really matter to you both. The 9th house is like your personal morals and your deeper beliefs. They're not like passing opinions or just random thoughts that you might have. That can be very shallow, whereas Mercury in the 9th, you're really going to get to the bottom of what the truth is and what is like the meaning behind life and the world, and every conversation you have will be all about like getting to the heart of the matter, looking or discovering the truth together. That's what keeps you two mentally satisfied. And you're really, with this placement, you'll really be interested in the depth of each other's minds. You won't be satisfied with just basic communicating, like everyday communicating. It'll be just very intense, very deep. And the relationship will also be about like exploring new frontiers together, whether that is intellectually or like literally exploring the world together. That's one thing that will definitely keep you satisfied, like intellectually. But you'll also really enjoy exploring each other's minds and the cerebral part of each other's personality. But most importantly, I think what I really like about this placement is just how communication will definitely be based in being open, being free to express yourself, and just based in honesty. Now, Venus placement in the composite chart, I have two favorite houses that I like to see Venus in the composite. The first one is Venus in the third house. Third house is also going to cover communication along with your Mercury. Communication will be geared towards fairness and hearing the other person out, hearing both sides of the situation. It's all about, when I think of Venus in the third, I think of like pretty words and like love notes, like leaving each other sticky notes with like cute messages on them, like all over the house or something. The conversations will be, for the most part, harmonious, making sure that you are coming across very diplomatic and very peaceful, you know. This is also another like sort of friendship placement too, and it will be really supportive of the friendship aspect of the relationship if it's a romantic one. The partners can really find love and peace within just their everyday communications, and it's easy to talk to each other, it's easy to confide in one another, and this also supports like just open communication and putting things out on the table and not really like hiding anything. And I also see this placement as where the romantic nature of the relationship will be very apparent to other people, because the third house is all about communicating and just like everyday interactions, like just basic interactions. And so with Venus here, you'll really be flirtatious with each other like on an everyday regular basis, and other people can see it. Other people will be able to pick up on it, and the two people will also pick up on it very easily. So if the relationship was just at the beginning stages and you have Venus in the third house, it'll be very easy to pick up if the other person has like romantic intentions or sees you romantically if you have Venus here. And it's also really nice because even as time wears on, you continue to flirt with each other and see the best in each other. The words exchange will be very sweet and just very loving, very romantic. Now, the second place that I really like to see Venus is, again, the fourth house. The romantic side of the relationship will be, it'll have like a cozy, warm feeling towards it. This is sort of different from what I previously mentioned about Venus in the third, where Venus in the third is all going to be very apparent that you two like each other. Venus in the fourth is going to be very private. Again, it'll be largely focused on like building a foundation together, like building a home or a family together. If you live together, this is also a like ideal placement to be quarantined together. The love between you two is based on feeling safe and secure together. And even though the love is very private and the two people can be very private about expressing affection towards one another, they will feel at their closest romantically when they can open up and when they feel safe around each other. When you're able to feel vulnerable with one another, that's when like the love is allowed to bloom. The fourth house is also like kind of like the heart of the relationship. It's like the relationship at its very core, what you can't always see on the outside, on the surface. It's just the very deepest part of the person or the relationship, you know, whether it's the natal or the composite. The romantic side or the love and affection is something that you just keep deep to yourself. You're just very like privately affectionate. And if they ever set up a home together, like the family life together will be very very harmonious, and they'll work hard to like keep the peace as they live together and within the family if they ever have a family together. Now for Mars, the composite Mars, I like to see the composite Mars in the fifth house. Fifth house is all about creativity and passion and like having fun together. Also rules children. So and then your Mars is like the how you guys get things done together, how you move, how you direct yourself as a couple, and like where you two can really be excited about things and what you guys will be really passionate about. And it'll also talk about the sex life of the relationship if it's a romantic one, if sex is a part of your partnership, your agreement. So basically with this placement, you're going to be passionate about having fun together, about like living it up and just partying and partying hard. You'll really live for enjoying yourself and possibly like pursuing luxury together, pursuing like the good life together. And the passion will also be like very much alive with this couple, very much alive. The sexual life will be very enthusiastic, very active, and it's like the passion will just never run out between the two people. The Mars really likes being in the fifth house. It's definitely a sexual placement, but it also is about just keeping the romance alive, keeping the exciting part of the relationship alive. The fifth house is all about like courting and romance and just like the lighthearted side of love. Not so much like the deeper commitment of it, of the relationship, but it's just like the lightness and like the fun, like pursuing each other and like crushes basically. So Mars here will definitely work to keep the passion alive between the two people, and it'll keep things feeling new and exciting and fresh, just like how it was at the very beginning. Now for Jupiter, the composite Jupiter. Composite Jupiter, I like to see that placement in the second house. The second house is about money and resources, and again, like your creature comforts, what makes you feel comfortable, what makes you feel secure. And Jupiter here in the composite chart is the two people will feel really secure together. They're gonna thrive in building stability together and making each other feel secure and safe. Those things are ruled by the second house. It can also indicate being able to make a lot of money together, or just like pooling your resources and like having them like build up majorly. But besides that, it's nice to have. It's nice to see. It's like you'll just never run out of good feelings and feeling safe together. This really adds to the long-term aspect of the relationship. If you want it to last, you want to have Jupiter in the second house. You'll find freedom in that security. It's sort of a paradox, where the second house is all about like stability and like security and like what you can expect and what you have to like fall back on. It's like a safety net, and where the relationship feels safe and taken care of. And Jupiter is freedom. You feel free enough to relax and just relax into your resources. It's like the two people don't really need much to feel secure in the relationship. But you also want to look to the moon for that. The moon also plays a big part in like the security aspect of the relationship. But with Jupiter in the second house, there's a lot of optimism and hope in being able to gain whatever you need together. It is very hopeful and optimistic in that you feel like you'll just never run out of things together. You'll never run out of safety and security together, and that's very liberating. That's something that you want to ease into, and you want to feel safe enough to be able to relax in what you share together, in what you're building. And with this placement, you're also really willing to invest in the relationship. You see it as something that you value, and with Jupiter here, Jupiter can show like the direction and the purpose of the relationship, along with like the sun too. Jupiter is more like the larger picture of, or like the deeper meaning behind why you two are together. And in the second house, it's going to be about creating longevity and creating something lasting, creating something tangible and realistic and like practical. This relationship the two people will always seem to have just what they need at the right moment. Again, like luck, expansion, those are Jupiter themes. In the second house is you will seem to have a lucky streak in like just having things and having things when you need them, having the resources you need when you need them. It can also be about lifting each other's self-esteem, building each other up, and like showing true appreciation for one another. And here I go again with another fourth house composite placement. I really like seeing Saturn in the fourth house. It'll be about inner stability and again, if you were to build a family or like a long-term relationship with this person, the foundation will be super secure and super strong. With Saturn here, Saturn fortifies and makes reliable whatever it touches or whatever part of the chart it's in. I like seeing Saturn in the fourth because you're very serious about the foundation of the relationship, about building it up together, about being secure together and creating something long lasting, creating a legacy. And the fourth house, I could also kind of see it, the fourth house composite, I could also kind of see it as like the roots of the relationship. Whereas in the individual natal chart, the fourth is, you can see the roots of the person, like the past of the person, are the, like, how they were raised, how they grew up. That's kind of like your roots and how, like your backstory basically. And with the composite fourth house, with that parallel, I can kind of see it as like the roots of the relationship, like how it all started. And with Saturn here, it's like you guys took each other very seriously from the moment the relationship started, and it's like it was bound to become serious somehow. Moving on to Uranus, I like to see Uranus in the ninth house, and this is because the two people will be very open to new possibilities and other ways of living. The two people are going to be very open-minded with each other, and like if you couple this with my earlier suggestion, Mercury in the ninth house, and you also have Uranus there, it's going to be like a huge, like, two people just brainstorming about like the meaning behind life and like coming up with these crazy ideas and crazy concepts, and it's just going to be so fun, like talking to each other and having these discussions, these debates. It'll be very, again, like open-minded, so there won't be any like hurt feelings if they ever disagree. It's just going to be a lot of discussion about like the deeper meanings behind life. And with Uranus in the ninth house, the two people will be very like open to each other's ways of living and each other's truths, whatever that might be, whatever their personal truths and morals and beliefs are. Uranus is a very like tolerant planet, and the two people's truths will be very moldable, and it's going to be something that's always changing, always flowing. And this could be very exciting for the two people. It might leave other people confused or like unsure about what the truth really is. The truth for them is always ever changing, it's always dynamic. I would also really like to see Uranus in the fifth house. Uranus in the fifth house would also be really fun because the way the two people will like really enjoy each other's company and really like relax and have fun together is through like random things. They might get into like really random shared hobbies. They could also just be very creative about how they spend their time together and what like their idea of fun is. So I see Uranus here as like a really fun placement in the composite in the fifth house. I also like to see Neptune in the fifth house. It is a little bit hard for me to find a good placement for Neptune personally, just because it has a natural tendency to like screw everything up in some way, shape, or form. And I'm totally not speaking from experience when I say that. But it's important to have positive aspects from Neptune, or else things can just get really foggy and messy and confusing, and deception has a high probability in the composite chart if you have like an afflicted composite Neptune, or if it's like really strongly aspecting the personal planets in the composite. That would be like considered a Neptunian relationship, and I've had my fair share of those and I didn't really like it. I don't like to see too much Neptune in the composite. I think the least harm it could inflict, if you had to place it somewhere in the chart, because every chart has to have a Neptune, I would choose to put it in the fifth house. It's a very lighthearted house, and it's nothing serious, nothing like that determines the length of the relationship. It doesn't determine like the stability or if it's gonna last or anything. And you don't really want Neptune in a place that is super serious or where you want commitment. And Neptune here is allowed to have its natural like fantasy element to play out. you're allowed to be Neptune can flourish here because it is about fantasy and like dreaminess, and it's not something you can like really hold on to for the long term, because it's just, it represents like magic, and like you can't really picture or like hold tangibly, realistically, like the concept of magic. So if Neptune is afflicted in the composite chart and it's in the fifth house, it's not that bad. It's in the house of play and romance and just lighthearted fun. So you don't need to worry about anything. Neptune in the fifth house in the composite loves romance. It can create such a really pretty like fantasy world in the relationship where at times when they can relax and they can just um, chill and be kids. This relationship with this placement could be highly moved to create music or art together, just fantasize and be creative together, like during their playtime. Now, for Pluto, I like to see Pluto in the 10th house in the composite because this is the ultimate power couple. You really make a huge and powerful and long lasting impression on the world together. Midheaven could be equated to the relationships like lasting or long lasting effects, and like how it appears on the surface and what role it will play in society if it does end up playing a role. The two people are the epitome of just poise and coolness and self-control, and they know how to make themselves look good or make themselves look a certain way in the public eye. They have a lot of potential to climb to the top and achieve so much together, whatever it is that they want to pursue together, whatever goal that they might have. This placement also lends itself to like being a very private couple because you have so much control over your self-image. Pluto doesn't really reveal anything beneath the surface. So the relationship with this placement will have a very like tight lid screwed on as far as like their image and whatever it is that they want to represent to the public. They can achieve a lot together, whatever that might be. They're stronger together as a team when they unite than they are alone, and they have a way of just making the entire world like just jealous, and they get to control what other people think of them. Another thing that I want to mention is that I don't really like too much emphasis on the 12th house in the composite, just for me personally. It's hard for the two people to really reach that place of the 12th house together. The 12th house is things that are not spoken about, things that are taboo. It's the secret side of the relationship that maybe not even the two people themselves are aware of, and it's just a very like foggy, confusing, messy place where nothing in that house is really like talked about openly. And I think unless the two people have charts or personalities that are very like 12th house in nature or very Piscean, have a lot of Pisces planets, they won't really understand what's going on in that 12th house in the composite if they have that together. They won't really have that intuitive connection that is required to bring about the issues of the composite 12th house. It can be hard when there's an emphasis on the 12th house in the composite, because just like a lot of things are like kept beneath the surface and not really talked about out loud, or like the two people are like too uncomfortable to talk about those things. Just that weird unspoken area, and the subjects within that house they never really come up and they're not addressed openly. We might, as a couple, we might deal with those 12th house planets in a very like hidden and secretive way, and that's not always healthy. If you enjoyed my video, if you did, and if it gave you some insights on some of your composite placements, if you have any of these, let me know in the comments. Let me know what placements you like to see in your chart or what you do have in your chart. Let me know any questions or comments you might have or any thoughts. I hope you guys are staying safe right now, and I'll see you again soon.